Welcome to this SPJ presentation of journalism during the Covid-19 pandemic with Kelly Kissel, the Metro editor of The Advocate in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
My name is Kelly Kissel. I'm the Metro editor at The Advocate in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Before that, for 34 years, I was at the Associated Press, including almost 25 years as news editor for the Cooperative in Arkansas and Oklahoma. I've asked a few of my colleagues and competitors to put together just little videos of how covering the pandemic has changed their lives, how they've changed their approach to the jobs, and just how difficult and sometimes how easy it is with the job as it is now. In fact, I haven't worn a set of pants with a belt in probably 4 or 5 weeks now. It's the third week of April. So there are good things like that, but the sad thing is there's nobody in my newsroom. I haven't seen any of my colleagues in person probably in nearly a month. So let's take a look at what some of the other reporters say, and then I'll come back and sum up.
Hello, my name is Liz Coe, and I am a reporter at WAFB TV. It's a CBS affiliate in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm the morning reporter, so I'm actually waiting for my live shot. We're still live every morning from 5 to 7 a.m. We still cover breaking news, but aside from that, we're all really remotely working from home. Our newsroom has kind of been divided up, so we're all maintaining social distance. There's no more than, I believe, 2 to 3 people in one room at one time, but me and my photographer are meeting up at our live location, and that's the weird thing because we normally start our day at the station, we write our scripts there, we cut video there. Something else that's really different is that with the live show, we normally have live interviews, but obviously to practice social distancing, we're not interviewing people live anymore, and that's a really hard thing when you work in such a visual medium. You don't have the opportunity to show off things, so you're relying on file video. You're finding other ways to get creative and either doing Zoom or FaceTime or Skype interviews or doing interviews over the phone. So it's been very challenging to work in TV news when you can't film people, when you can't interact with people person to person. So it's certainly been different, a challenge working in TV news during this pandemic.
Hi, my name is David Mitchell. I'm a reporter with the Advocate newspaper in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I've been covering the COVID pandemic for the past, 6-8 weeks. I'm doing 2 things primarily. I'm crunching numbers for the Baton Rouge area, the cases and deaths and other health statistics that come out every day, and plug them in a spreadsheet and then writing stories or finding little trends that someone can report on or, that type of thing. And then the other thing I'm doing is covering a church that is continuing to have public services despite our stay-at-home order and other social distancing restrictions. And that's kind of a different experience because I've been going to events there when I've had to, and those folks really aren't protecting themselves, aren't wearing masks, aren't wearing gloves, gathering in groups, and so that presents a risk for me and by extension my family. I have 2 children, so they're on their schedules and their concerns and their needs don't always match with deadline. So that's always an interesting experience, but that's just life. You have to roll with that. And we've kind of made do. We've made a schedule for the kids to stay on and try to do their work and have a little fun and so forth. So that hasn't been too difficult. But, there's three other people in the house doing their own thing and yelling and screaming and eating, getting a Coke and ice while you're doing an interview on the phone, and everything's clanking and, that type of stuff. But that's just kind of unavoidable. When you're interviewing people, you often see that they're dealing with the same thing. You'll hear a cat do something or, some kind of weird thing in the background. I'm trying to do this video for you now. I had to wait for the lawn man outside to quit blowing leaves so I could do this without any crazy background noise. So that's just part of COVID, I think, for everyone.
Hey there, my name is Lauren Westbrook. I work at WAFB in Baton Rouge. I co-anchor the morning show and I also anchor the noon show there, and it's been a time over the last month. It has definitely been different, as you can imagine. I'm one of the few left at the station. Most of our employees are working from home. But I am in the studio. I know I'm home now, but I just got home. I'm in the studio, social distancing. I know that you've seen all of the social media as far as what journalists are doing right now, how they're working from home, sanitizing everything in the station, the microphones, the prompter wands, the iPads. That's all very important and across the board something that most journalists are doing and that most managers are requiring. But I also wanted to bring up the point that it has been interesting to watch the viewership change through this pandemic, how families are out of their routines, and to keep a finger on the pulse of those families has been significant and something that we have to keep remembering. They're not waking up early and going to their job. They may not be working, or they may have lost their job. They have their kids at home. So a lot of these families are seeing the news for the first time in the afternoons. We've definitely seen that with the viewership. And in the afternoons, we have been covering these press conferences from state officials, from the governor. I would tell you, if you ever cover anything like this again, which I have not, obviously, this is unprecedented. I have covered horrible weather events and mass shootings and terrible things, but this is a different animal. And I would just encourage you, if you ever have to cover anything like this, to remember day to day that even though you're in your daily grind, to remember that these numbers and statistics coming in are families, that this is an emotional time, and to not get caught up in your daily grind, because it is stressful and journalists are exhausted right now. But this is a time where we are a public service, and I truly believe that. That has been my takeaway so far. It's been about a month, but that has been the biggest challenge and the biggest struggle, to remember when you're going in and you're not seeing everyone you're used to seeing at work. It's not your typical environment or forms of communication that you're used to remember who you're touching, who you're affecting, and that this is history right now.
Hello, my name is Leah Ski, and I cover crime and criminal justice, and now the coronavirus for The Advocate in Baton Rouge. And one of the major ways that my job has changed since the start of this pandemic is that we are now all working from home, which means I get to hang out with my reporting partner all the time. But aside from that one bright spot, it is a lot of pretty intense reporting. We are talking to victims' families to document some of the impacts of this crisis, and that takes a toll, but it's also really important work. So we're going to keep doing that.
Everybody approaches emergencies in different ways. Some people are calm and collected. Some people just freak out and just don't exactly know what they're going to do with themselves. In journalism, you do have to have a level head. I mean, you have to be able to go into the situation and talk to the grieving widow. You have to go in and you have to see the horrible car crash. In this case, we're dealing with so many deaths in the Baton Rouge area that if you were to have told us 6 months ago that, oh, well, you're going to cover a story in which 19 people are going to die, then automatically it becomes like, oh my God, this is horrible. It's going to take up all of the front page, and it's going to be this thing. And now you wait with anticipation on a Monday morning for the coroner's report to come out, and you take a look at a number and says, oh, 19 dead. It's like, well, that's not as bad as it was last week, or things like that. And so the perspective in journalism has changed completely. As I mentioned earlier, not having reporters around, I mean, there's a collegial atmosphere. You really like to sit around and talk to reporters about stories. And if you suggest a story idea and they hang their head and they think, oh, that's not a good story idea, you can pick up the nuances on that. But when all you're doing is using Slack or a Zoom meeting or things like that, and you're not picking up the dynamics, it changes the way you communicate. And so there's a whole lot of challenges. There's professional, there's the personal. I mean, I haven't seen my grandbabies in probably 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. They came by once and I waved at them in the car from a distance, and did the same I think last week as well. And so there's the emotion of that your life has changed. And so if you're having a hard time, talk to a colleague. If you think the professional help might help, then ask for it or get it. See if your company has any resources and things like that. I mean, we have to stay strong through this. The world really is depending on journalists to bring them the truth through all of this. And so please do what you can to stay on the job. get your rest, get help if you need, be willing to talk to colleagues, just be that person who you have to be to make sure the stories get out there and that people can look to you and trust you for the job that you do.
Thank you for joining us for this presentation of journalism during the COVID-19 pandemic. And thank you to the Baton Rouge, Louisiana journalists who shared their stories, and to Kelly Kissel for putting this together, Liz Coe, David Mitchell, Lauren Westbrook, and Leah Ski.